Right, what we've got here is my £3,000 winch that's going to be mounted onto my Polaris Rzr 570. This is a Rhino winch rated at £3,000 and it's got the synthetic rope on it. Well, that's what I ordered. We're going to unbox it, have a look, see what's in there. We've got some instructions. Oh, looking at them I think I'm on my own, they're a bit vague. So, let's see what we got. Well, we're okay there. We got synthetic rope on this one, which is what I ordered. Rhino winch, £3,000 rated. Colour coded terminals, red for positive, white for negative. But I believe that's switched to change the motor direction. I wasn't expecting it to be as heavy or to look quite as well built as that, considering what it cost. Yep, I'm happy with that. Let's put that down on the floor. See what other goodies we've got in our box. More packaging. First thing I see, this one comes with 2 remote controls. Power switch on the side, in and out. It can't get much more simple than that. There's one. And there's 2. What powers them? In there is a very small battery. An LR23A. I don't know if the camera can see that. LR23A is the battery. They're not particularly well constructed, they're quite a hard plastic, so I can imagine they will break quite easily if they're dropped on the floor, or you don't put the plug back in properly, which I'm struggling to do. There we go, that's 2 of them. Also, we have a universal, put it right around, an out switch to mount somewhere in the dashboard, which comes pre-wired with a plug. Yep. Wire is nicely protected. Okay. And a control box that's all zip tied up with the 4 wire ends on it. There's the other one. So that one says on it 2 motor white. That's the black lead that goes to this white connector.
It's 11 o'clock.
The other black lead goes to the negative on the battery. So here we have 2 more black leads on a red lead. That is to the motor, that one. That was motor white. Battery negative, battery positive. Then we have this one. That is the receptacle for our switch. So that will connect that to the control box. Let's nip these zip ties off. I want to see what wire we've got. One. I know, pair of nail clippers, but they work. Seems to have quite a bit of wire. Yes, we've got quite a bit of wire. I'm not sure where I'm going to mount the control box, looking at the wire we've got. One thing I have noticed, there are some very small Phillips screws in there, so the control box is openable. I'd like to know what's in that, but I don't want to unseal it. Okay. So that's the control box. What else we got on here? We have our fair lead. Aluminium. Should bolt directly to the front of the buggy. It's just a piece of CNC machined. No, I'll do the job. Bag of nuts and bolts, Allen bolts, washers, nuts, spring washers. Forged hook, got a good strong spring on it. Okay. Our saver. And our mounting plate. Got to figure out which way round that's going to get mounted now. I don't know if it's going to go that way up or it's going to go that way up. I'm not sure how I'm going to mount that to the buggy. Got some thinking to do. So there we go. £3,000 Rhino winch. Heavy winch. Rhino winch, £3,000 synthetic rope. With free spooling hub, which you just pull out, and I'm assuming, yes, it does free spool. Yes. So there we have it. A little update where I leave off from last night. I was telling you I needed to modify this plate. Well, I've done the modification today. That's what I wanted to take off it, because that's the plate that the winch bolts to, and them two there, and that one bolt it to the cross members I've put into the chassis. I also wanted to do a little modification to the fair lead. I wanted to make it look prettier, but that's by the by. That was my main mod. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to stick that on the plates that I made, mark the 4 holes, take the plates off, drill them. I'm going to bolt that into place. Well, sat on the floor here now, I've got the 2 cross members, that one and that one. As you can see, everything's drilled. That goes to the front of the chassis, that one goes to the back. Then the winch plate is bolted to the top side, so it forms that. What I'm now going to do, I'm going to bolt that one in, just leave it loose, put this one in, leave it loose, then locate the winch plate on top of the 2 cross members. Well, hopefully you can see down there, the brackets are bolted in, the winch mounting plates only resting on there now with the bolts in it loose. I'm just going to have a trial fitment of the winch, see how it sits, see how everything lines up, and then it's all got to come apart again once I know everything's okay, so I can get all the parts powder coated. Well, the winch test fit has been successful. Other than the bottom radiator hose resting on top of the winch, which I'm going to have to either protect the hose with something or zip tie it up, which I've had to do with the top radiator hose. I've had to zip tie it to the chassis. But all in all, it's quite a successful fit. I've got a modification to do to the winch plate. I want a piece taken out to the front so the rope doesn't rub on it. I've noticed it's a bit close, but all in all, I'm quite happy with that. Thing is, now I've got to take it all apart again to do one more modification, like I say, to the winch plate, and then get the parts powder coated and bolt all the hardware in for the final time before I start wiring it up. Well, there we have it. The winch is finally installed and it's neat and tidy. Wiring goes up and through the bulkhead. I'll show you. Control box is under there, and the rest of the wiring goes down under the centre console all the way through and out into the battery. I finally figured out where to put the switch, and that's where she lives. There's a cross member under there with a bracket. Tuck the wiring up and zip tied it on so it doesn't get in the way. It's out the way, nobody can knock it, and it's nice and easy to get to whilst you're in the cab and also out of the cab. I'm also lucky I've got remote controls for the winch as well, so you just live in the cab. So that is the full installation of the winch. All works perfect. Neat and tidy, everything's out of the way. So last update on the winch, the fitting of it. We've now got to go out and try and get stuck. Well, as you can see, I've got front shock absorber off and the anti-roll link off. And there's the bolt. What I'm about to do is put a 2-inch lift kit on the front, and I believe this is the correct way to do it. So I'm going to go open the kit up now that I got from a company in Canada, which is here. It's a Perflex 2-inch lift kit for my 570 Rzr. Their part number 1531269. See what we got. Instructions, bag of bolts, they're the rear brackets, rear left and right, so I'm not going to worry about them tonight because that's not what I'm doing. Somewhere, I hope, there they are. There's 4 of these. These are the front brackets, which I believe go there to relocate the shock absorber, and the shocker then goes onto the top mount. So I'm going to put the camera on the tripod now and try and figure out how these two go onto there. Well, there's the new hardware. The bracket bolted through get my torch. And in there is a spacer bolted onto the other side, and then the shock's bolted between that, and in there's a washer either side of the shock to take up the extra clearance, and then using the original hardware, the spacer, the anti-roll bar, the washer and the nut, and it's all gone bolted back together, and it's absolutely dead easy to do. So that's the front. The front's very, very easy. Yes, very, very easy. Quite happy with that. I think I'll put the wheel back on and go and do the other side. So there we are, final fitting of the kit. 2-inch lift on the front. And all the hardware's there. Anti-roll bar still on. And I have done the other side as well now. So, as you can see, we have got some ground clearance. Next task is to do the fronts. Do the rears, sorry. I'm being an idiot now, I've just done the fronts. Quite neat, simple, really easy to fit. Really happy with the kit. Everything's fitted with absolutely no problems. Everything's lined up. It's a Perflex 2-inch lift kit for my 570 Rzr. Their part number 1531269. See what we got. Instructions, bag of bolts, they're the rear brackets, rear left and right. Sorry about the lighting, but we've got the rear lift kit fitted onto the Polaris now. It's them brackets I showed you in the other video, which bolt over the chassis, drill one hole, put that Allen bolt through, use the original fixing point for the shock absorber with the spacer in the middle, and then the shocker gets mounted further down. And it's again, it was another very simple. It took me about an hour and a half to fit them both, so I'm quite happy that it's all gone together really well again. So up to, for now, that's modifications completed. Dual battery is the next mod I'm doing to the Polaris, so there'll be updates on that soon. Cheers. Right, I'm about to put this Odyssey Extreme PC925 series dry cell battery into my Polaris. These things really pack a punch, and they're not particularly big. They're a really good battery. I'll just spin her around and show you what I've done with the battery terminals. These brackets are bolted to the battery, which then come up with an M6 bolt on, locked up solid, so everything's got a good contact. Now all the leads will be bolted onto here. It's ease of access for the leads. What it also gives me is when the battery's in, I've got somewhere to hook my fingers over to get the battery out. Because I'll show you in a bit, that is a tight fit. a really tight fit in the battery box, which is what I'm going to show you now. When I let myself in, it's going down there, which is where the original battery lived. The original battery's been moved to the other hole over there, because that's now going to become my auxiliary battery. This big Odyssey is going to be the starting battery. So she's actually going to live in that hole. And it's a very tight fit. So I'll show you in a few minutes with the battery in. What I'm making up here now is 2 earth cables. This is going to be the earth from the auxiliary battery, from the battery to the chassis. And this one goes from the battery, sorry, this one goes from earth, which will join one of these, and it goes into the little pin in the intelligent relay. So that'll go down there. Yeah, that'll go onto that pin down there. So what I'm going to do now is place this, just roughly for now, because eventually I'm going to put a piece of Velcro on the back of the relay, and I'm just going to Velcro it into the buggy. So that's my earth cables made up. I've now got to make 2 positives. A positive from the auxiliary battery and a positive from the starting battery. And one of the positives goes to that pin, which is pin number 1, which will be the positive from the starter battery. And the auxiliary battery goes to that pin there. So the positive from auxiliary to pin 2, positive starter pin 1, and the little pin at the bottom is the earth for the relay. So I'm going to make my leads up now. So I've made the 2 earth leads up. I'm going to make 2 positive leads up now, get my length sorted out. So there she is, fitted into what is a very tight space. It ain't moving anywhere. Now the idea of these is so I can lift it out, because you can't get your fingers round the battery, so that's why I've made the brackets the way I've made them, and I can get my fingers under there and I've got somewhere to hook under. So that's my reasoning behind making the brackets that way, which then means when I hook the cables on, which I need to sort out, they go on very neat, and they're going to go like that, and it keeps them flat, so they're going to be really neat on there. That's my idea. Keeps everything low, keeps everything below the level of the battery tray, which means nothing is ever going to short out on the bottom of the seat. This isn't a dual battery setup where both batteries are linked together. That's not happening. The Odyssey is my starting battery. The YB14, which was the original Polaris battery, is going to become the auxiliary battery, and it's going to be a split charging system. And I'm going to be putting down here the split charging relay, which is an intelligent relay which monitors the voltages off both batteries. So if the auxiliary drops below a certain amount, it disconnects from the main battery. Never ever flatten your main battery, so you've always got cranking power. All I'm going to run off that auxiliary battery is a winch. That's all it's for, the winch. Eventually I'm going to chuck another Odyssey in there. About £130 a battery. It's a big chunk of money to be buying two of them in one go. So I bought the one for now. Going to split charge it, wire it all up. And I'll show you in a bit where I'm up to. Right, so in here now we've got the Odyssey and the auxiliary. The auxiliary is wired up. The relay is down there. That wire is the one that goes to pin 2 on the relay. Goes to the positive on the auxiliary battery. Also running off there is my trickle charger and the winch. Negative, obviously, winch, trickle, and one of the earths that goes up to the earth point here, and the other earth goes down to the relay. Positive off number 1 is here. I haven't put that on yet, and that's the main feed off the starter battery that goes down to the starter relay, which is down there. I'm not putting that on tonight. I'm going to leave that till bloody torch somewhere. Now there it is. Put it there. I don't want to put the two positives on tonight. I'll do them tomorrow morning. I know my battery's working. I've had that lead on. I've tested the hazards. So I know I've got power coming through the battery and everything there is okay. I'll put that on tomorrow, and then I'm going to tidy all the wiring up. Make a battery clamp for the Odyssey, because I can pick up the original mounting point there, and also there's a mounting point down there to fasten that down. And then I've got my, that's proper tight in there. I've got my Odyssey battery on as a starter, obviously, and that is the auxiliary. That's charging now. That's on the trickle. Then all I got to do is put the seat in once I'm finished. As you can see, everything is below the seat. The seat sits on that bracket there, and we're all ready to go. Job's a good one. Well, we're back with the dual battery conversion, and tonight I need to change an earth lead, because I'm not that happy with the size of the cable I put on the earth lead for the little auxiliary battery down there. I need to change this blue wire that runs from there to there. As you can see, I haven't used the biggest cable, so I'm upgrading it to the same size as the live. So that is tonight's little job, which is also the same size as the original Polaris wiring. The other blue lead, the other blue earth that goes down to the switching relay, that size of wire is fine, but I'm not happy having it on the auxiliary. When I start pulling load off it, I'm scared of it maybe melting, maybe burning out, and I don't want to end up stuck somewhere having no power to the winch. So that's what I'm going to do in a bit, change that. So I think the first thing I need to get is, and I thought I'd brought it in with me, the Apparently not. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. I made it up. There she is. 10mm socket. And the other thing I want to do before I do anything is disconnect that lead, because that's off the trickle charger. So I'm simply going to go and disconnect the earth lead. The other thing I'm going to change is, because there's that many leads on this battery, I'm actually going to put a longer bolt on and change that to a longer M6. The first thing I need, I've just noticed, is I need to cut that wire tie. Let's go and find a pair of snips. Let's go traipsing through the garage. And raid the toolbox. And there they are. I walked you through the toolbox one day, and that lot up there, which is a mess at the moment, but there's all my specialty tools up there. There's a couple of scanners lying around. There's crap everywhere. Yeah, there's crap all over the place. Right, let's go back in. I'm going to carry the camera around tonight, so you get a bit of a view of my wreck of a garage. I'm afraid it's jam-packed full with everything. Okay, that's a great place to drop them, I suppose. Let's snip a tie off. You try to do this with one hand, it's not that easy. I'll tell you why it's not easy. Wait, that disappeared quick. I need to get, for that out of there. I'm actually going to leave that earth down there, because Sod's Law says one day I'm out, I need a piece of wire. So that's the negative for the winch. That is the negative for the trickle charger for this battery. Let's have a test fit of my new bolts, which is quite a bit longer than the bolt that's so there we go. That will do what I want it to do. I'm still below I'm still underneath the seat. The plan is I'm going to put a nut on that. I'm going to put a nylock nut on there, which I'm going to wind up now. So I can put the Allen bolt in with all the wires on it, and then I can wind the nut down onto the battery and then check it for clearances against here, because I think I'm going to be okay for clearance. Just makes things a little bit easier to get the leads on, and also with having so many leads on the battery, and the bolts they give you with the batteries are a little bit short. So I'm going to try this. Right, let's get that lighting right. What I've done here now is I've just put a nylock nut onto the Allen bolt. Just going to extend the battery mounting bolt, and my idea is what I'm going to show you now. Let's get my other earth lead, which I've got up here on the dash. I don't know how I can do this. I can't do this with one hand, so I'm going to just put the camera down. Right, I hope you can see what I've done here now. I've used the long Allen bolt with the nylock nut on it, and I've put all the leads on. The intention is now just to nip the Allen bolt up and then use the 10mm nut to tighten all the leads up onto the battery. I've run the earth lead that I'm going to use over the top of the battery, round in a loop, and that is going to go onto the earth point there. So I'm going to tighten that up now, and I'll come back and show you where I'm up to. Camera's going down again. Right, so we've got all our leads connected up now. As you can see, the Allen bolts in, and I've used the nut to secure all the leads to the battery. They're actually more secure, and it's a lot easier to fit them. Run my earth lead round and secured it to the earth point. I'm just going to fasten everything down now with zip ties. I'm going to fasten this to here with a zip tie, so it's sitting down and it stays down. Just going to fasten it down here, and that'll be fine. That's below the battery level. I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to do the same on the positive, because I've got the same problem here. I've got 3 leads going over here, and trying to get that to pick up the nut, because you've got to put so much force onto it. I'm scared of bending or breaking the battery, so I just think this is a better way of doing it. And particularly doing this lead, I'm not so frightened now of frazzling a wire. I'll come back in a few minutes again and I'll show you where we're up to. All it's taken to secure that wire, one zip tie there. That is properly secure now, that cable. It's not going to go anywhere. So I'm happy with that now. It's where I want it. That is staying put. Yep, that is where I want it. Nice and neat, and it's there forever. Leads flowing down, coming round, going to the earth. I can't ask for a better lead than that. That'll do nicely. Right, so I'm going to proceed on now, and I'm going to get on and do the battery positive terminal the same way as I've done the negative. both the leads now modified to the Allen bolts, using the nut to secure the wires to the battery, and they're nylock nuts so they won't come loose. It's a lot easier than trying to rely on the very small bolts that they give you with the battery. They're great if you've only got one lead coming off. You try putting multiple leads on a battery with the original bolts. You can do it, but you end up with hardly any threads in the nut, and I'm always scared of breaking them, so that's the reason why I've changed them. And obviously, drop torch on the floor, going from the very thin wire up to a proper earth strap. I just feel happier now that I can pull some load out of that battery when I've got the winch on and not worry about frazzling this little wire like that blue one there, which only goes to a relay. That's all it needs to do. It's as big as it needs to be. I'm happier with that. It matches the rest of the battery cables because they're all large cables. Obviously the Odyssey battery cables, they're the starter cables. Them are the winch. That one's the live down to the relay. That needs to be a big one, but the earth off the relay doesn't need to be that particularly large. I feel that one needed to be bigger. But when I was putting the dual batteries in, I didn't have any more black cables, so black cable's now been made up, and there we go. I suppose I can call the dual battery conversion complete until I get another Odyssey to put on this side just for the winch, because the winch is eventually going to get another PC 925. Evening. A lot of you aren't going to like what I'm doing tonight, but I've got this thing about these things. I don't like them. I really don't like these. So what I'm doing, I am replacing them. Every single one of them on the buggy. And I'm going to replace them with stainless steel Allen bolts. A washer, another washer against the back, all stainless steel nylock nut. I've already done 1, 2, 3 to hold the rear wheel arch on. I much prefer the sort of, it gives it a more chunky, more purposeful look. It's my choice. Pass comments in the comments box. Tell me if you like it or not. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. It's just a personal thing. Because at the end of the day, not one of these buggies ever stays standard. Everybody mods their buggies. Everybody's got different ideas. What you might like, I might not like. What I like, I might say, oh yeah, that's a good idea that you've done. I might do that myself, but this is my preference to just making the buggy look a little bit different, making it a little bit more chunkier. That's what I want. I just want it to look purposeful, make it to look a little bit meaner, make it look like it's really strong, even though it's all plastic. It's all in the looks. That's what it's about. You have to put your little individual stamp onto them. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make mine different from everybody else's. But not different dangerous, not different badly put together. But my interpretation of what I want out of the buggy. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing on one of them. I know there's a proper tool for getting these little plastic pegs out. I don't possess it, but I'm taking them out to replace with bolts, so if they get damaged, they get damaged. They're not going back in. All I'm going to do, let's get some light on the job. Is I'm going to find the edge. There's two little edges on them, so like two little ears, and I'm just going to pull the centrepiece out. I'm going to put my hand up the back, squeeze it, and remove the other piece. I'm going to keep them. I'm just going to chuck them in my toolbox because they're used on so many different motorbikes. A lot of my friends run Suzukis and they're always breaking that particular clip. I just stick my Allen bolt through with a washer on either side. Screw it all together. And don't actually have to be tight, they just want nipping up because I'm using nylon. That's tight enough. Let's do another one. That one's come out in one piece. Allen bolt, one washer, through the hole, washer on the back side, one nylock nut, and just repeat the process that I just did on the other one. Because access to them is very, very easy. You have to use a washer because it's up against plastic, and if you don't, it's just going to crack the plastic. There's one left there, one plastic one, and then obviously we're on now the Allen bolts, and I did the two that hold the front section of the buggy on with the headlights and everything attached and the grille a long time ago when I had all the front end off to do my winch, because I actually broke one of the clips and I thought, oh, I've got some M8 stainless steel, see what they look like, and I actually quite like the look. So comment in the comments box. If you don't like this idea, tell me. If it's something you want to do, M8 bolts, nylock washers, nylock nuts, stainless washers, go ahead, do it. Just gives the buggy that bit chunkier look. Thank you and good night. Enjoy your off-roading, your four-wheel driving, your ATVs, your UTVs, your enduro bikes, your Land Rovers, anything you're using to go off-roading, four-wheel driving, whatever. Just go out and enjoy it. Right, another modification I'm doing for my Polaris is making a tow hitch. My Polaris comes with the fittings already welded into the chassis, or as they call it, a receiver, with 1.25 inch square. So all I've gone out and done is I've bought myself 1.25 inch box section, which I've used approximately 7 inches of, a tow ball with a 3/4 shank on it, which we've drilled right through and bolted it in with the nut and the spring washer. I've put 3 holes into the 1.25 inch box section, which will correspond to the mounting bolt that runs through on the Polaris. So as I'll show you now, I can have this there, which means it's sticking out that far. Or I can position it there, which gives me a slightly shorter tow hitch. This is all depending on what you're towing. And then what I call my default position, which is probably where it's going to live 99% of the time. And I'm just securing that with one high tensile M12 bolt with a washer, save for messing up the powder coating on the Polaris. And then obviously I'm going to stick another washer on there, and then I'm going to use a nut, which is a nylock nut, and I am trying to do this whilst I'm holding the camera, which is going to secure the bolts through. I know Polaris use a pin and a quick release system. So basically that is my tow hitch fitted to my Polaris. I will probably trim the bottom of the tow ball hitch off, but I'm going to try it first and see if it grinds on the floor. If I don't have any problems with it, I'm leaving it as it is, because I've also got another modification to do to this later, which I might need the extra thread. I'm going to place another flat plate on here with a hole in it, so I can put a piece of towing web. That's at a later date. This is all I wanted to show you tonight. The homemade tow hitch. Well, we went out this weekend trail riding and we had one of the quads break down, and nobody had a tow rope, so it was a bit of a pain in the arse. I ended up hooking the winch to the quad and we ended up reversing off the trail till we got back to tarmac, and I must have reversed 2 miles on the winch cable, pulling him back so we could get to some proper good dry land so we could change a belt. So, bit of a nightmare really. So I had this 1.25" box section left from when I made the tow hitch. So I've been scratching around, what am I going to do with the piece of 1.25" I've got left? So I decided this evening I'd make a solid tow pole. So in here, this is some really thick nylon webbing which I've doubled up, bunched up, drilled straight through with M10 stainless bolts and a nylock on the other side. So I've got a loop on this side, and when you come back up to this side I've done exactly the same, drilled through, and I've got 2 loops, and I'll show you how this works now. Been and tried it out tonight since making it, and it works surprisingly well, and it's so simple. I'll just grab it and I'll show you how I'm working on it. There's the tow hitch. There's my loop, and my loop simply goes over the tow ball, which I just bunch up. It didn't come off tonight when we were dragging the bike, and it comes off and it gives me a totally flexible solid tow hitch. And on the end of it, with having the loops, all I've started carrying now, and it's what I'm going to carry for the future, is a piece of old nylon webbing. It's a really long piece which you can double up, quadruple up, anything. Go through the loops, tie it onto what you're towing, let's get her off. Nice simple tow pole. That's probably capable of towing 1,000 kilos. So I think it's simple, it's easy to use, which is what you want when you're out on the trail. You just got to get yourself off the trail, back onto tarmac. As long as one of you's got a tow pole or some bungee cord or a winch, as we found out on Sunday, using my winch, using the Polaris in reverse to tow the quad off the trail, you will always find a way of removing a stricken, broken down vehicle. But this is just going to make it a lot easier. We found a home for the tow bar, and where I've decided to keep the tow pole is down behind the seats. There's a ledge, and it just fits across the back of the buggy between the roll cage, so that's where she's going to live, down there. I've also got the tools stashed behind the seat, because with having the twin batteries on the buggy, I've got no space under my seat to keep them, but I haven't lost them yet whilst they've been under or behind the seat. So tow pole's got her home, and we've also found a home for the webbing. I've just tied the webbing on so it's easy and accessible, and we're not going to lose it. It's on there nice and secure. Just looped it round, tugged it on, so it's easy to get to. So the webbing's accessible, and behind the seats we have our solid tow pole stashed in the buggy all the time, so we know where it is.